So Amy and I burn our phones up sometimes for several minutes a day, trying to figure out all this good stuff. Oh, I know we're all busy, but I think you picked up two of the craziest, busiest people ever to do this. But we're trying. Anyway, we're planning I put on here Fall In for Jesus celebration we're having October 28th from 6 p.m. to whenever we all of us party animals decide to leave that evening. So we've got a good menu planned, but we need lots of help in bringing several things. So we have a list of things that we need as of now. I have at least 3, I think, on each item. Please sign up for at least 1, if not 2, and of course everyone can bring a dessert. I have cupcakes, cookies, whatever you want to bring, it doesn't matter. So as for now, maybe pick 2 things and then 1 dessert. And if we have to come back for more or less, we'll let you know. But just please sign up, please plan to come. Put it on your calendar now. It's going to be here before we know it, October 28th. We are planning, just so everyone knows, get an idea for a costume. Fun, biblical, nothing scary, nothing demonic. Melinda, just in case you and you're such an easy target, I'm sorry. You know I love you. I know you can take it. Anyway, Amy told me to say that. I'm just teasing. Anyway, it's all going to be about just a fun evening. And it's for our class. Just get an idea of what you want to come. And you don't have to come dressed like what you're coming dressed like. But we can have a time that, like maybe after we eat, that we'll take our time to get dressed up. Now, if you have to come dressed up, then that's just what you'll have to do. Don't you think that'd be good? Fellowship hall, please plan to come. It is going to be a nice evening. We're going to have a fire, a hayride, just all kinds of fun stuff. So please plan accordingly. Your wife's here. Yeah. Men, if you're in here and your wife is teaching, please tell your wives. I know we have a lot of people out here teaching. They're not getting some information. I'm going to try to tell them as I walk back through there. But anyway, just tell your friends that aren't in this class to be sure to come. Thank you. I guess that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you, sis. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
All right, we'll get right into the lesson this morning. We're just going to trust the Lord to add and take away, because I have quite a bit of notes this morning. Remember a couple of weeks ago, does anybody remember what I taught on the last time? Put you on the spot. I spoke on words are powerful. So we're going to kind of continue that thought a little bit. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands, but I hope some of you did the homework that I left you with that day. We're going to continue on. We're going to talk about some words that are hard to say. Okay? What are some words that are hard to say?
I'm sorry.
Yep, that was actually the first one that came to my mind. That's what's on my notes. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I don't know about you, but sometimes I have a hard time saying no. Does anybody have a hard time saying no? Why do you think that is? I tend to be a people pleaser. Yep, I don't want to disappoint people. Don't want to let people down. Try to be nice. Yeah. Does that get anybody in trouble other than me? I see a lot of heads shaking, so apparently I'm in the right place today. But what we're going to go with the thought of is, what do we say no to? What should we be saying no to? Obviously, the first thing we need to say no to is sin, right? As Christians, we need to say no to sin. And kind of the thought came from this. My daughter's probably gonna laugh, but I love to listen to Billy Graham. People that know me get in my car and I listen to Billy Graham. That or my music. But I could not get his sermon off my mind, and it's kind of geared to the young people, but you know, I think most of us, I'm gonna say we're all young at heart in here. So we're gonna talk about some things. And the first thing I'm gonna talk about is temptation. And first of all, I'm gonna say, I don't know that anybody's being tempted. I'm just going to say, this is where could not get away from this, so I'm just going to go there. So, in looking at temptation, we're going to talk about Joseph. And this story is found in Genesis chapter 39. Most people know the story of Joseph. He was sold into Egypt by his brothers to Potiphar, where he became a slave. Potiphar was an officer of Pharaoh. So in Genesis 39 verse 3, says, "And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all he did to prosper in his hand." So he was still blessed even though he was a slave. He didn't plan to become a slave. But they were sent out to find boys and bring them back. They, in verse 7, said, "It came to pass after these things, master's wife cast her," oh, we're not going there yet, sorry. Going back, they sent people out into the land to find them that was fair and good and smart, had wisdom, and so he was brought back to be basically taught their ways, okay, and to become a slave. So in Genesis 39, 7 through 9, it says, "And it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph, and she said, 'Lie with me.' But he refused, and said unto his master's wife, Behold, my master wotteth not what is with me in the house, and he hath committed all that he hath to my hand. There is none greater in his house than I, neither hath he kept back anything from me but thee, because thou art his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?" So Joseph's thinking was right, wasn't it? He knew who he was. He knew the honor that had been bestowed upon him and the favor that God had showed him through this person to give him control over everything. Nothing he held back from him. So Joseph was trying to say, this is why I can't do this. How many times in our lives do we have to say, with sin, any sin, I can't do that. God has been too good to me. God has forgiven me for my sins. I'm a Christian. I'm trying to walk on the straight and narrow. I just can't go there. But, as we're going to see, the same sin may come to you over and over and over. Kind of get wore down. You kind of start thinking, well, why not do that? So we're going to see how things go. Do you think Joseph was tempted? I do. I believe she was tempted. He was a man, normal man. I believe she was beautiful. She might have been sexy in today's terms. She might have been hot. She might have been desirable. But I believe he was tempted. This went on and on and on in verse 10. Day by day, he hearkened not unto her, to be with her. Over and over, he had to say no. Sometimes, it's not a one and done. It's going to come back and come back and come back. We're going to see later on in the verses, it was kind of the perfect storm. She waited until none of the servants were around. The spouse was gone. Who's going to know about it? It's fine. Indulge in this one thing, this one time. No big deal. He's going to get hurt. Does any of that sound familiar to anybody? How many times is that what Satan says? This is just a little thing. Take this, ain't no big deal. Nobody's going to find out. It's okay. And that's with any sin, not just temptation. I'm talking about any sin today. So, you see where I'm at in my notes. So, verses 14 and 15, she shows the men of the house the garment. took her hands on him, laid her hands and said, hey. And he got out there pretty quick, didn't he? He did the right thing, but he left his garment. We're just going to say it was his coat. So what did she do? I believe she plotted to get back at him and get revenge. A woman scorned, you know. Yeah, she didn't take too kindly to it. So verses 14 and 15 says, he came in to lie with me and I cried with a loud voice. Goes on to say, she stayed in the bed with his garment until her husband got home and told him the same story in those 2 verses. It was lies. All lies. Wasn't it? So Potiphar becomes angry, puts Joseph in the prison. But even in prison, God had his hand upon him and showed him favor. Verse 21 says, but the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. Joseph was blessed for his saying that, wasn't he? You and I will be also. Doing the right thing when no one is looking. How many times we heard Burnette say that's what integrity is? That's a sign of and a mark of a Christian. He was a man of God. His actions proved it. Our actions need to prove and back up what our voice is telling people. You can witness to people. You can invite people to church every day of the week, to the 10 people every day. But if you're not doing Christian things, acting in a Christian manner, talking in a Christian manner, showing love, doing the right thing when it's hard, all that other's for naught, isn't it? It's going to have no effect. No effect. Again, sex isn't wrong. Sex isn't sin. It's a gift from God, but we abuse it. And it becomes sin, and it becomes wrong. So what temptations do you deal with? And I have many listed that I just don't feel like I need to mention. What sin are you tempted with? You're not alone. We all have something. I feel like we all have something if we were being honest this morning. But with God, we can conquer our temptations. We can conquer the sin that's trying to tempt us. Pray about it. Here's my advice today. Hold yourself accountable. Confide in a Christian friend. Okay, I'm not saying all of our friends need to be a Christian, but I'm saying if you're going to go to somebody and say, hey, Vic, I'm struggling with this. I could use some accountability in this area of my life. Can you check in on me? Ask me, how are you doing with this? And name it out. Let the devil know you know what he's trying to do. His tricks aren't working on you. And ask them to join you in prayer about it. Hold yourself accountable. Okay? Second thing we need to say no to. And this is a big one. As I talk to people, live my daily life, watch television, this next thing is going along with the world. Do you all feel, as I feel, that everybody has some knowledge of God, acknowledgement of God, and everybody's going to heaven, we're all just trying to make it? But then, like I said earlier, their actions, their words, they don't line up, and it's a little bit confusing, you know? Christians are to be a peculiar people. We are to be different. In the world today, like I said, nothing's wrong, nothing is sin, everything's okay, isn't it? Okay, now we're going to talk about Daniel for a little bit. Well, as a teenager in Jerusalem, Daniel was captured by the Babylonians. The Emperor Nebuchadnezzar sent men out to bring him back. Daniel chapter 1 verse 4 says, children in whom they were looking for children with no blemish, well-favored and skillful in all wisdom, cunning in knowledge and understanding science. Does that sound familiar? We just talked about that. They wanted to train him in their ways, their religions, in their tongue of the Chaldeans, in order to become a servant of the king. He was to eat the king's meat and drink the king's wine for 3 years while he had this training. What did Daniel say? Daniel said, no, I'm not going to do that. In verse 8 of Daniel chapter 1, it says, Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with a portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank thereof. He requested of the prince of the eunuchs, who was over them, that he might not defile himself. So, in regards to my first point, was this a sin? Was this wrong? I don't know. I'm going to be honest and say I don't know. But I know it seemed wrong to Daniel. For him it was wrong that he purposed in his heart not to do those things. So as the story goes on, Daniel had his friends there. Guess we all know Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And he asked this eunuch that was over them, who he had found favor with, who had come very fond of him. He really liked Daniel. But he was scared when Daniel said he wasn't going to do this. This eunuch, he began to say, well, what's going to happen to me if the king finds out that you're not doing these things, if you're not eating of the meat and drinking of the wine, and you don't look and appear well versus the other young men? He was afraid of what would happen to him. How many times do following instructions and being obedient and not doing the things we're told to do affect others? Always. Always. It's never just you. Our actions always have consequences. But Daniel said to this eunuch, please, I beg you, just give me 10 days for me and my friends to eat pulse and drink water. That's a big ask, wasn't it? That man really trusted Daniel, didn't he? I had to look it up because I didn't know what pulse was. But pulse is a bean or a seed grown for food. Doesn't sound very yummy. But that's what it was, according to what I found. And so this eunuch said, okay, I'll give you your 10 days. And then at the end, you put us beside the ones that had the meat and the wine and see what happens. So he probably very reluctantly agreed. Verse 15 of Daniel says, chapter 1 there says, and at the end of 10 days their countenances appeared fairer and fatter in flesh than all the children which did eat the king's meat. Think about how different Daniel was from most of the teens today. Daniel was far from home, away from his parents, right? Our teens today, sometimes they want to get away as far as they can from mom and dad. Sow some wild oats, live their own life, figure things out. But not Daniel. Not Daniel. Again, Daniel could have said, what's it going to hurt? Who's going to know? But at the same time, Daniel also knew it could mean death to refuse the orders of the king. He could have gained popularity by indulging, but no. He said no, and the Lord, again, showed him favor and blessed him for his decision here. This no early in his life prepared him for the bigger no later in his life when he was faced with the den of lions, right? Don't you think there was a point in time in Daniel's life when he thought, okay, Lord, I know what you did for me back then when I just had pulse and water for 10 days. It's different than just one day. We could all be okay for one day, knowing tomorrow I even want. But for 10 days, I think Daniel was thinking when he got in that lion's den, Lord, you've been with me before. In this time, in this time, in this time. So that was just making his faith grow bigger and bigger and bigger. Because we all know the story. God shut the mouths of the lions. So my point with that is, so if God puts something on your heart to do it. Right? Don't listen to what the world says. Don't listen to what your friend says. If God puts something on your heart to do it. Obey Him and He will bless you for it. What else do we need to say no to? How about neglecting our family and our friends? And I'm even going to add yourself. Some big eyeballs when I said that. It's okay when I say, don't neglect your family and friends, but it's a little bit harder to not neglect ourselves, right? We gotta have some me time, right? We gotta have some self-care, some self-love. We gotta have some downtime. So many times we get busy caring for everybody else but us. It's easier to care for everybody else but us. It's easy to go work 40, 60 hours a week, clean the house, mow the lawn, do the repairs, run the kids here, run the kids there, prepare the meals, do all the things we all have to do. I'm not saying just hang it up for a day. Things still have to be done. But I'm saying try to carve out a little bit of time. Okay? Make it a point. Put it on the to-do list if you're like me. I got to have a to-do list or I can't get anything done. Too right brain. Keeps me focused. Okay? Put yourself on a to-do list. Don't neglect your family and your friends. You know, to be a friend, we're going to talk about this later. I'm going to go ahead and say it before I forget. You know, to have a friend, to be a friend, you got to make time for those friendships. They don't just happen. You know? And I'm not saying you got to have a lunch date every Saturday. You know, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying a quick text to say, how you doing? How's things going? How's your week? Thinking about you. Love you. Simple. Simple. Husbands and wives, make time for each other. Continue to go on dates. I say that a lot. I think we say that a lot around here. Have conversation. So how many of y'all get this? Hey babe, how was your day? Fine. Now, is that really conversation? Spoiler word, men, that's not conversation. No. Conversation is when we talk back and forth and you talk in sentences, not words. And what do we say when we want to communicate? Ask open-ended questions. We don't ask yes and no questions. We ask open-ended questions.
Roxy will tell me, well, Cheryl said this about this, and they went over here, and they had to get these papers, and she goes on and on. I go out to the garage, and I come back, and she's still talking. You know she's not here today, don't you?
I was going to point that out.
That happens, and then suddenly she realizes she's been talking a long time, and she'll say, oh, how was your day? And I'll say, fine.
And it's back to last week's lesson, like we like to talk almost twice to 3 times as many words as you men. But work on it, guys. Work on it. You know? Ask open-ended questions. Ask open-ended questions to your kids, because your kids are going to give you the same answer. How was school today? Fine. Did you learn anything? No. Does that sound familiar? Yes. Ask, better yet. Brevin, what was the best part of your day? No, really, what was the best part of your day? Did you see your friends? Did you talk to your friends? Yeah. Recess. So then, when they say at recess, say, well, what did you do at recess? Who'd you hang out with? Get to know your children's friends, right? That's for another lesson, I think. Anyway. Ask your husband how the meeting went. Anything new? Any policies? Eric always says old bosses are coming to town. You know. Try to be involved. Let them know. Sometimes I'll say, got meetings today. I have meetings about meetings. I don't know if anybody else does that, but I feel like I have meetings about the meetings. It's exhausting. So Eric's probably like you, Mark. He's probably just like off and on and much letting me talk, but that's okay. He's there. Spend time with your family together. Try to have dinner together at least 2 to 3 times a week. And you're like, Lynn, if we have it once. Sunday dinner, my house, be there, right? That's my rule, and I've got adults. They still listen to Mama Lynn. Yeah.
2 to 3 times.
children, the non-adults. My adult children, once a week, I'm very happy with that, because they got lives, so I'm trying to be respectful of that. But I do miss them when I don't see them. They live 5 minutes away, and if I don't see them for 2 or 3 days, I'm like, you see the kids? What's happening? What's going on? It's just not right. Okay? Implement some basic guidelines. Now, I think this should be for you two at home, and me too at home. No phones at the table. Conversation.
I'll text you if you're on TikTok.
Yeah.
Hello, pay attention to me.
Set time limits for electronics. I know we do this probably for our kids, or below 18 kids, but I think it's a good idea. I turned mine back on this morning. Do you know your iPhone can do these magical things? You can go into settings, go in there, and you can say, I slid it open, and it comes on there, and I set time limits. I won't tell you what my time limit is, but all of my apps that I get on, Facebook, TikTok, if you're on Instagram, Snapchat, whatever you're communicating with all the world with, that's all fine and good. I'm not saying that's wrong, okay? I'm saying limit your time so you are not ignoring and shirking your immediate family, the ones that we say we love the most. Sometimes it's the easiest to kind of just, oh, they're always going to be there. I mean, he lives there, so I see him. But you don't want to become roommates. You know, you still want to be a married couple.
Lynn, this reminds me of what I teach my students at school. I teach technology, so I talk to kindergarten through 6th grade about this, and they say, well, if we have to put our stuff away, our parents should put their stuff down too.
Yes,
So
good point.
That's a good complaint there.
It probably is a common complaint, because it is easy to tell what our kids what to do, and then, monkey see, monkey do, but, yeah, we gotta set those, be the examples. Yeah, no phones in the bedroom after a certain hour. That's probably good for your kids, probably good for you too. Now, I realize that's a lot of people's alarm clock. I'm just saying, don't be on the phone scrolling. Okay? I roll back and go to bed and not be on my phone like to watch TV. Eric's not saying that. So I need to think about that more. Yep. We're not getting any younger, class. You know? If you're still fortunate enough to have your mom and your dad with you, spend time with them. Make it a point. Call them up. Same for other close family members, close friends. Those people that are in your inner circle, make them a priority. Make them a priority. Okay? All right, number 4, distractions that take time away from God and our relationship with Him. Say no to those distractions. And again, we're not prioritizing our time, so I'm not saying all this stuff is bad. It's too much TV, too much scrolling on Facebook, too much TikTok, too much Snapchat, too much gaming, too much inappropriate movies, books.
Class has had 5 minutes.
Oh my goodness. Oh my. Too much time with the hobbies. Golf. I'll pick on myself. Fishing. Going to the gym. Whatever it is. It can all be too much. Even though it is good things. These things aren't bad or wrong in themselves, but too much can lead to missing church. Not having our devotion time. Not spending time with the people that we need to. We can get overwhelmed and not get our things done, our chores done. We can get too busy doing good things. All of this can lead us to being overwhelmed and anxious in relationship issues. I'm not saying that's the only cause, but that can be a cause when we have too much of these things and not organizing and prioritizing our time. Wrong friends. We can have the wrong friends. And you can say, well, Lynn, I'm X amount of age old. Yep, I know how old I am, and yes, there's some friends that sometimes you have to say no to. Okay? Christ-centered friendship is about serving others and asking ourselves how God might use us in our friends' lives and how God might use them in our lives. Good examples of Christian friends are Paul and Timothy, David and Jonathan, And again, I'm not saying all of our friends have to be a Christian, but ask yourself, are they a bad influence in how you talk, where you go, what you do? Do they tempt you to sin? Back to number 1. Do they offer no emotional support? Do they make you feel inadequate? They don't respect your opinions and values? And if you just don't feel good around that person, that's a red flag. Pay attention to that. It's okay to disagree, but not to the point of disrespect or damage to your self-worth, your self-esteem, or your Christian walk. Okay? Proverbs 18:24 reminds us that good friends stick closer than a brother. So if they're really your good friend, spend some time with them. Okay? Here's the truth. You simply can't say yes to everything. Nobody can. Can't say yes to everything. You must learn how to say no. Paul tells us to make the best use of our time. In Ephesians 5:16, it says, redeeming the time because the days are evil. Sometimes my days are evil. So you say, how do you do this? How do you say no? And I'm going to go through these very, very quickly. Okay? Somebody asks you to do something, you affirm the request. Say, okay, so you want to go play golf on Saturday? Well, let me look at my schedule and I'll get back to you. Let me talk to Eric and see if he's got anything planned for the day. Then I'll get back to you. Let me see if Gavin's coming home. Does he have a race this weekend? Then I'll get back to you. It's okay to say no. And here's what we're going to talk about also. Try not to get focused on the no, because that sounds very negative sometimes, doesn't it, when you say no. Actually, think about what you're saying yes to. If I'm not going to go play golf or go to the driving range that day, it's probably because I'm going to say yes to maybe a day date with my husband, or some time with my grandson, or going to his race, or going shopping with a friend. Maybe I already have plans. Maybe I have to study for Sunday school class. I can't do anything because I'm in the bedroom all day. There's reasons why we need to say no. And it's okay to say no. Everybody say, it's okay to say no. It's okay to say no. So when you say no, don't just be like, nope, I'm doing that. Nope. Say it with a smile. Say, thanks for asking me to go, but I've got the day booked. I'm overbooked. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Honestly, we don't really owe anybody an explanation of why we're saying no. We just need to say thank you for the invite. I appreciate it. Ask me the next time. Okay? I appreciate the invite. Say it with a smile. Pray for wisdom about your day. Ask God to guide your day. Say no firmly but gently. Sometimes when somebody says, Carla, can you head up this event thing for our Sunday school class? And Carla said, and she got Amy to say, Sometimes, and I'm so glad they said yes, I'm just using this as an example. If you can't do it and you know you can't, or that's not your thing, or you've got, whoa, I don't want that responsibility, I appreciate you asking, but I think Brenda would be great for that. Throw somebody else under the bus. No. Say, hey, that's really Allie's thing. She's very outgoing. She's this, she's that. Ask her. See if she'd be. Try to have a solution. All right? Again, I already said why you said no. Say yes sometimes. Say no a lot more. Okay? All right. You're done. Let's go. Thanks, class.